What's up? It's Tom. Thanks for clicking on this video. Brooks Lee, lots going to fall on this guy. He's going to need to step up with Royce Lewis out. The Twins seem to try to take some pressure off of Brooks Lee coming into spring training, kind of saying that the second base job is up for a competition. They didn't really want to kind of anoint him as the guy there. So it's kind of an interesting thing that it turns out that all of a sudden the pressure is going to get turned up on him. A couple other guys have opportunities as well with Royce Lewis being out. In case you missed it, we didn't get the specific reporting from the Twins of grade 3, grade 2, grade 1 as far as how bad of a hamstring strain that is for Royce. They called it moderate, and they are not giving an official timetable for return. And honestly, they probably don't know at this point for sure. But the conventional wisdom seems to be from people kind of speculating that this is most likely a grade 2 strain and that Royce Lewis is probably going to miss around 6 weeks. So again, that is speculation. That is not anything concrete. Could be less, could be more, definitely. Either way, again, I don't even think the Twins know or Royce Lewis knows for sure how long this is going to take at this point. Just got to take it day by day. But Royce is going to be out for a while. So kind of the question, it's with Royce Lewis and it's with Brooks Lee, is should third base be viewed as Royce Lewis's kind of spot? Does he get penciled into third? And basically, when he comes back, are you putting him right back into third base? Or is that potentially kind of up in the air with Royce Lewis out right now and having missed so much time? In my opinion, if that is Royce Lewis's spot, and he's getting that spot back no matter what when he comes back, I feel like it's best for Brooks Lee to focus on second base. If that's Brooks Lee's spot, if that's his path to a long-term home, I think it's best for him to focus on playing second base, and you put the Willies and the Mirandas at third. That was kind of my first reaction when we talked about this, and I shared a defensive alignment, was that, hey, let's do what's best for Brooks Lee first and just put him at second base since that's his long-term home. But some of the other conversations that have been going on since then and just kind of sitting with it more makes me wonder, should Royce Lewis be penciled in at third at this point? Or should it be, okay, he's out of sight, out of mind. We're going to do what's best for the team, and if Brooks Lee's the best third baseman in-house, we're going to put Brooks Lee at third base. And, we also want to keep his future in mind, his long-term future in mind. And you know what? If during this time he plays a great third base, he starts to hit in the major leagues, we will be open to the idea of Brooks Lee being the everyday third, the guy that we look to at third base and say that's our guy there. Then, maybe I think that's the way to go. And hey, when Royce Lewis comes back, again, maybe Brooks Lee, he's not established himself as a big leaguer, so it's not like this is a guy you can really take to the bank. So maybe Brooks Lee hasn't really gotten his footing still. And third base is still there for when Royce Lewis comes back, and he can take that back, and it's a welcome thing that he's taking his job back. Maybe not. Again, maybe Brooks Lee takes that spot, and maybe Royce Lewis has to DH or do something else. My opinion on these two has always been, I think probably Brooks Lee would make a better third baseman than Royce Lewis, but I don't want to mess with Royce Lewis. Just put him at third base, let him be comfortable there. You're probably going to potentially minimize injuries by not only just having him at third base, but having him have a set position. The guy's getting injured all the time anyway. So it's like, how much are you going to do to try to prevent injuries with this guy, or keep that in mind? He has been open to taking ground balls at second base. Again, he can DH. If it comes down to it, maybe he can play first base. I don't know. But the question is, and I want to know what you think, should Royce Lewis have sort of the scholarship mentality? Is third base his job, no matter what? If he's out, when he comes back, he gets back to third base. Or should he have to fit in around whatever else is happening at the time of his return? And maybe the Twins have found someone else that can be the third baseman, like Brooks Lee, by then. It might depend, too. That's the other thing. If you are open to, hey, let's just have him DH, maybe that shaves a couple weeks off of Royce Lewis's return time. Maybe you get him back faster than that. And he's DHing, and you give him quite a few off days, And it could be that he's able to return much faster than that than if you want him to play third base on a near everyday basis, that's going to take a little bit longer. So that's another thing to consider. And then the other thing is, like, there's other names that are going to pop up into this conversation. Luke Keeschall. It's entirely possible that by the time Royce Lewis is recovered and returning to the big leagues, Keeschall is lighting it up in the minor leagues and absolutely pounding on the door. He's looked good. He's looked good forever now. Basically, since the Twins have drafted him, Keeschall's looked really good, really professional, really advanced. He's another guy where it's easy to question where he's going to end up defensively because of the Tommy John surgery. He mainly DH'd last year. But, a guy with second base experience, first base experience, center field experience also could factor into the DH conversation as well. But kind of key thing here is that there's going to be another name in this infield conversation before too long. Crossing our fingers that he keeps developing. So, and we don't lose anybody else. I originally said, hey, let's keep Brooks Lee at second base and let him focus on that because that's his long-term spot. I'm starting to kind of waver, and I'm leaning toward let's just put Brooks Lee at third. I know some of you suggested that's the plan A. Again, I'm not sure if you want Brooks Lee to be the long-term second baseman. I don't know that that's what's best for him, but I'm kind of willing to open up the door for him taking third base and then saying, hey, Royce, you got to figure something else out if this guy really gets his footing. That's kind of what I'm leaning now. As far as the go-to defensive lineman, we know, though, there's not going to be a set lineup. So these guys, Edouard Julien, assuming he makes the team, he's going to play a lot. Harrison Bader is going to play a decent amount. I think the final spot, as I put at the bottom there, is coming down to Mickey Gasper, Deshaun Kersey Jr., and Austin Martin, and I think that's the order in which I would rank them. Mickey Gasper being a 29-year-old guy, a switch hitter who's a multi-positional guy, too. He fits into a bench spot just based off of his profile, and just the fact that he's 29 years old. This guy, put him on the team. He's had a good spring. He's a unique bench piece. Put him on the team. I think he's my go-to guy for that final spot. But depending on what they're looking for, it could be Kersey, it could be Martin, but I'm guessing it'll be Gasper. We're mainly talking about this infield picture, and I want to know your thoughts on that. But I also want to throw out, I'm also reconsidering my bullpen that I threw out in that last video, in that, in case you missed it this morning, I wrote about Eiberson Castellano for Twins Daily and how unrealistic, and I threw that out there in my last video. Hey, this is a guy you can just put at the back. He's the last guy in your bullpen. He's only pitching low leverage. He's your mop-up guy. It is so difficult, though, to go through an entire season, let alone even months at a time, with the same mop-up guy. That guy's going to end up throwing multiple innings, and then obviously if that happens and the rest of your bullpen is fresh, fine. There's just so many things that happen throughout a season, and I touched on that in that article. If you're interested, I encourage you to go read that at Twins Daily. There's just so many things you can't plan for. There's so many things that create challenges that really, really sink your bullpen planning and make it difficult to keep one guy in a mop-up role for an entire season. And that's the only thing that Castellano is looking like he could bring to the table right now. Unfortunately, they're testing him. He's facing pretty good competition in spring. He's not pitched well. He's had a couple really good outings. He's had a few poor outings, and he struggled to throw strikes. He's really struggled to throw strikes. So he's really not, at this time, showing any potential of anything other than being a mop-up man. And it's really tough to stick one guy in that role and expect that to work out, because your other guys you're gonna need to cycle through. You're gonna need to churn and burn pitchers, and you can't do that with Eiberson Castellano as a Rule 5 pick, because you can't send him down. He has to either stay on the active roster, the injured list, or get returned to Philadelphia. They could trade for him, but I don't think, and then they can option him. I don't think the Phillies would be interested in that. I think they'd rather just get him back. So I have the final spot down to Castellano, Scott Blewett, and Anthony Misevich, a lefty. And kind of the odd thing there is those other two guys are out of options, so they can't be sent down either. So it'll be interesting. I did put a star next to Justin Topa as being on the projected injured list because he did throw on Monday. So he pitched in a spring game. So maybe he wasn't expected to have enough time to ramp up. So he was expected to open the year on the injured list, but maybe not. Maybe Topa is able to ramp up, and then he's on the opening. He's in that mix for this final spot, and he has options. So that's kind of interesting to keep in mind there. So, yeah, my guess, though, is that Castellano breaks camp with the Twins, and they try to make that work as long as possible, but before too long. Like, I don't even know if he gets out of April before the Twins are like, all right, we can't just stash this guy. We need a fresh arm, and he's the guy that's got to go, and he gets returned to Philly. So I guess my official prediction is that he is going to stick with the Twins momentarily, but that he doesn't last too long, doesn't make it the whole year with the Twins, and gets returned to Philadelphia before too long. But what do you think about those options there? It's interesting. You might ask me tomorrow the same thing, and I might come up with some different alignments. So it'll be interesting to see how they play things. We'll talk again soon.